What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Kieran here, and I'm going to do a video about House of Wolves and my final thoughts on the House of Wolves DLC for Destiny. Now, the way this video is going to be sort of set up is I'm going to do two little sections of it, detailing the good points of the DLC and the bad points of the DLC. But thankfully, the good points far outweigh the negative points. So let's get into it, shall we? Now, first of all, for the good section, I want to talk about just the overall increase in content from the Dark Below, because I mean, let's face it, the Dark Below as a DLC wasn't that great. I mean, the best thing about it was obviously the raid. The story missions were pretty damn lackluster. They were very short. I think there was only 3 of them as well, and it was kind of like, is that it? That was my basic experience from the Dark Below. It did, however, introduce some nice new features, such as the weapon rerolling from Xur and stuff like that, but it never really did anything kind of groundbreaking and game-changing for the Destiny universe, and that's where I feel House of Wolves has really sort of changed the game a little bit. First of all, the story missions for House of Wolves are much more various. There's a lot more of them, and they are very, very fun. In fact, they're some of the best story missions in the game right now. I've really enjoyed the House of Wolves content so far in terms of the story. The House of Wolves, the Fallen House themselves are really interesting to sort of get to know and kind of read more about, through the Grimoire and everything. The leader, Skolas, he is really interesting to read about if you read all the Grimoire and everything, so I do recommend reading the Grimoire. If you're a fan of Destiny and you haven't read it, definitely read it. You can read it through the app, or you can just go online. You can find all of it in one place on Planet Destiny, so you can go ahead and do that. But yeah, the story missions are a lot more numerous, they're a lot more varied, and they are just a lot better. There's one story mission in the Vault of Glass, so they're obviously making use of more areas that are already in the game, which I do really like, because everyone just sort of kind of forgot about the Vault of Glass throughout the story, and it's not really mentioned at all, and it's only really sort of there when you go in a raid, so yeah, I do like the fact that it's been mentioned a little bit more. Now, another thing that I really like about House of Wolves is the new Queen's Wrath bounties. I have found them, me personally, I find them really, really fun. Every Tuesday on the reset, I go and pick them all up and just grind my way through them, and I really enjoy doing them. Finding all these the Fallen public events is quite fun, and you can sort of just track them down. You basically, in the House of Wolves DLC, you're more of a mercenary, I would say. Obviously, in the Dark Below and the just regular vanilla Destiny, you're fighting against the darkness. While in this, you're just fighting against another alien race, and you've kind of been hired by the Queen. So you're basically a bounty hunter, mercenary sort of dude. He's basically just tracking down wolves, and that's kind of what you do. But it's damn fun, so we're not going to complain about it. And I actually do quite like the idea that now that the darkness has been defeated, the Guardians haven't really got anything else to do. So maybe they do sort of hire themselves out as hired guns. I don't know, so we'll see if anything becomes of that in future DLC. So I spoke about the new public events. The new public events are great. Now for 2 of the main attractions to House of Wolves, the Prison of Elders and Trials of Osiris. Now I'm going to focus on Prison of Elders first, because that's honestly the game mode that I've played a whole lot more of, and I'm pretty damn good at it compared to Trials of Osiris. So, Prison of Elders is the new game mode. It's in place of the raid this time for House of Wolves. We'll be getting a new raid, probably in the Taken King expansion that's going to be announced shortly at E3, hopefully. But yeah, Prison of Elders is basically, it's kind of like a horde mode sort of game type. The best way I can describe it is that if you played Escalation in Transformers War for Cybertron or Fall of Cybertron, it's kind of like that. You've got targets to take out, 5 rounds each round, so yeah, it's kind of just like that. It's kind of basically Destiny's version of a horde mode, and it's quite good. The only thing I have against it though is the rewards are kind of random and kind of annoying, to be honest. First of all, if you want to open the main chest in Prison of Elders, you need something called a treasure key. Now, annoyingly, one of the only ways to get this is to grind out the public events to try and find yourself a treasure key. Another guaranteed way of getting one of these is to complete all of the Queen's Wrath bounties for the week, and if you turn them all in at once, both times I have done it on both of my characters, I have gotten a treasure key. So I can guarantee at least one a week. If you're up for grinding, then you can honestly get more. But there's no way I'm grinding out to get treasure keys, to get pretty subpar loot. I'll be honest with you. The Prison of Elders and the Queen's Wrath weapons, they aren't great. I'll be honest. The Fallen themed weapons that Varric sells, I'm not a huge fan of them. Only because they just seem really big and cumbersome. They take up most of the damn screen, and the stats on them aren't anything to really get excited about. I already have all the raid weapons pretty much, and I've ascended quite a few of them now. I've got a maximum 365 Fatebringer and a Found Verdict, along with a Galahorn that's maxed out. So I don't really have any use for the Prison of Elders weapons. Also, the Queen's Wrath weapons kinda suck. I'm not gonna lie. There are a few of them that are good. I really like the rocket launcher and the pulse rifle. No, not the pulse rifle. Sorry, the sniper rifle, Her Benevolence. They are excellent weapons. However, the rest of them, because they don't have elemental damage for the primaries, don't really get used for me at least, because I have raid gear. So that's kind of my only issue that I'm having with those at the moment. Just because they don't have elemental damage, and I know you can get elemental damage for the Fallen theme stuff if you beat Skolas, but I haven't beaten Skolas yet because he's a pain in the arse and I haven't done it. But yeah, so the Queen's Wrath weapons are a little bit disappointing. The colour scheme on them isn't great either. It's sort of like bright pinky purple, which is fine, but it doesn't really go with any of my armour that I'm currently using, which kind of bugs me, but that's a very minor gripe. I mean, the stats on the Pulse Rifle are pretty good. I rolled one with Outlaw and Rangefinder, which is a pretty good combo. It's also got Casket Mag, so that's a pretty decent roll for a Pulse Rifle, but I don't really tend to use Pulse Rifles all that much now that I've got my Ascended Fatebringer. So, that's really my only issue with Prison of Elders. Oh, there is also one thing. You're supposed to be guaranteed an exotic every time you open a treasure chest, the first time you beat Prison of Elders for the week after the reset. I have done this 3 times now on all 3 of my characters. I have beaten the level 32 and level 34. No exotic, even if I use a treasure key. So I don't understand why it's doing that. I was under the impression that you were guaranteed an exotic, but apparently not. So yeah, that's kind of my only gripe about Prison of Elders. I really hope they make treasure keys a little bit easier to get. I know I'm pretty sure they're guaranteed if you do all the Queen's Wrath bounties, so you can have at least 1 a week. As for the actual bosses themselves in Prison of Elders, they are pretty damn good. They're very, very challenging. I know last week's boss was one of the hardest bosses I've ever had to fight. I think his name was Quodron, the Vex Gate Lord. That was for the level 34 last week. I think he's this week's level 32. But on level 34, that guy was such a pain. It took me and my team about an hour to bring him down. So yeah, the bosses are pretty damn well done. After it took us about an hour to take this guy down, it was honestly feeling like a raid. It was like the first time we went in and beat Atheon. That was how tough it was. Because Atheon, when you first go into the raid and you've got no experience, is a pain. And it was just like that. It was that sort of feeling yet again. When you go into a boss, you don't know anything about the boss. You don't know the mechanics properly yet. And he will absolutely kick your ass. I think this week's boss for level 34 is a little bit easier as well. I think it's the Servitor. Well, it is the Servitor because I've just bloody done it. Yeah, that was way easier than Quodron. Anyway, so the bosses are really well done. I think there is one more enemy that we haven't seen yet. I think there's supposed to be a big hive boss, like an ogre or something. I don't know. I don't know the names of all the bosses. I don't think we've seen them all yet. Because we are still getting a few bosses that we haven't seen from the reveal, so I don't know what next week will entail. But yeah, and I still need to beat Skolas, because Skolas is just, ugh, that boss driving me insane. It was. So, but I didn't bother finishing it, so I'll probably end up doing that at some point. So that is Prison of Elders in a nutshell. It is pretty damn good. I just wish they'd fix the drops. For some reason, we're not getting exotics, but other than that, I'm pretty happy with it. I'm enjoying it in place of a raid. And Vault of Glass and Crota's End aren't going away, so you can always just go back and play them, because they are still just as fun as they've always been. I still run Crota and Vault of Glass on hard every week, and it's still just damn fun to get together with some friends and just play the raid, because they are really, really fun. If you haven't played a raid in Destiny, don't do what I did and wait for ages. Just jump in there and just play one, because they are really, really fun. They're probably the most fun you can have in the game, so definitely do that. Now I want to talk about Trials of Osiris. This is the new multiplayer mode. Now, Trials of Osiris, it's more of it's an elimination mode, basically. It's elimination. It's very, very competitive, very sort of teamwork based, and it's definitely not for everyone. I will say this. I'm honestly terrible at it. The maximum amount of wins I managed to get was 3 wins. So yeah, I am not great at Trials of Osiris. It's definitely not for everyone, but the beauty of this new DLC is that you don't need it to get to the maximum level. Now, in previous DLCs and just in vanilla Destiny, you needed the raid gear to get to the maximum level. In this, you have so many more options of getting to the maximum level, which is level 34. You've just got so many more options, which I really, really like. You don't need Trials gear to actually reach the maximum level, which is nice. The Trials, the gear itself looks excellent, so I can understand why people would want to get the gear from Trials of Osiris, and the weapons look excellent. There's a scout rifle that I really like the look of. The pulse rifle. There's a pulse rifle with absolutely nasty stats on it, which I would really like. And if you can get elemental damage, if you can get to the lighthouse, then that's just lucky for you. But yeah, Trials of Osiris, it's definitely not for everyone, but it is a fun, competitive multiplayer game mode. If you can find a team, definitely give it a try. I wouldn't try it as anything less than a level 34 though, because if you get put against level 34s, it's pretty. You're pretty much going to get slaughtered. Yeah, it's basically the Iron Banner rules apply. The higher level you are, the more damage you can take, the more damage you can dish out. So if you're level 32 or level 33, you're going to be at a pretty big disadvantage. So yeah, don't do what my team did. I was the only 34 in the group. The rest of them was a 32 and a 33, and we got absolutely decimated. So yeah, don't go into Trials of Osiris with anything less than a 33 or a 34. 32s, don't even think about it, because they're just going to get just owned. But yeah, Trials of Osiris, if you're good at it, just go ahead, just enjoy it. It's going to take a little bit of practice though for the people that aren't really into PvP to really get into this sort of game type. I mean, I'm not even great at regular Crucible, so I'm basically a PvE player. I do all the raids to get gear and all that, so yeah, Trials of Osiris isn't really for me, but I can see the appeal of it, and I do like the fact they're adding a new mode every week, so that's really cool. Now, for the last part of the good parts of the DLC, I'm going to talk about the Ascending. The Ascending feature for your guns is just an absolute godsend. The fact that you can bring a Fatebringer, a Found Verdict, Fangavir, all those great guns up to level 365 attack, it's just the greatest thing ever. My current loadout consists of Fatebringer, Found Verdict and Galahorn, and I am just absolutely wrecking in the Prison of Elders with that loadout. I can't wait until I get some more Etheric Light so I can upgrade Praetor's Revenge or Vision of Confluence. That's going to be great, but for now I'm just going with the main weapons, basically douchebag mode activated, because they are one of the most powerful weapons that you can get for PvE, at least, Fatebringer and Galahorn and stuff. So Ascending is a massive, massive win. I'm so glad they added that in, because it is just absolutely brilliant to be able to bring your weapons up. Also, one of the last great things about the DLC is that you can actually buy materials from the speaker. Now, this eliminates a part of the grind, which is just, thank God for that. You can trade in stuff for Motes of Light, Ascendant Shards, Ascendant Energy, just anything like that. Any sort of material you need to upgrade your guns, you can pretty much buy. Just as you could with Eris in the Dark Below. So yeah, that's pretty damn great, and I'm really, really glad they added that in. It sort of it just eliminates a section of the grind, and can definitely sort of help out. Oh, and also I forgot to mention one of the biggest things about House of Wolves. We have the new social space which is in the Reef, the Vestian outpost. I think the new Reef social space is really, really cool. It's just so nice to actually have a new environment to go to for your social space, because you can access the Cryptarch, the Postmaster, everything that you can access in the tower is in the Reef. Obviously not the vendors like the New Monarchy, Dead Orbit, Future War Cult, stuff like that, but you can still pretty much get everything in the Reef you can get in the tower, which is always really, really cool. I honestly find myself going to the Reef a lot more than the tower, just because it's just a bit of a change of scenery. The views are pretty damn good. It's a testament to what the engine of Destiny can actually do, because it can generate some really impressive visuals, and the Reef is no exception. It's probably one of the best looking areas in the damn game, and it's really nice to actually be able to explore a small part of it. I mean, it's only a small social space, but it's a social space nonetheless. It's a new area, and it just looks damn cool. Also, Varix, the main sort of vendor, Varix and Petra, they are really, really cool characters. Varix especially. He's just so interesting to actually hear a Fallen sort of talk and talk a little bit more about the Fallen in general, sort of their society, their ways, and you can actually hear that from an actual Fallen, which is always nice. And he's got such a really cool voice as well. I could honestly listen to him talk for hours. He is a really, really cool character. Also, the banter that he has with Petra is really cool as well. They sort of have a little bit of a camaraderie, which is always nice to hear. Also, the character of Petra is pretty damn fun as well. I honestly didn't think much of her at first when the first Queen's Wrath came out a few months ago, but she has actually proven to be a pretty damn interesting character. So yeah, but she's overshadowed by Varix, because Varix is just so bloody cool. Now, sadly, we must move on to the bad parts of the House of Wolves, but thankfully there are a few of them. There aren't too many bad parts of House of Wolves. The good far outweigh the bad. So I've pretty much touched on them a little bit already in the good section of the video, because I get a little bit carried away. But just to reiterate, the treasure keys, they drop way too rarely. I know you can get one guaranteed from the Queen's Wrath bounties, but honestly, farming them for hours in the patrol missions is just not fun at all. I wish they were a little bit more common. And again, I have to mention the bad loot drops from the Prison of Elders. Obviously, if you do Skolash, you get some decent ones with elemental damage, but I'm talking level 32 and 34. They're the ones that I've done so far. The loot isn't fantastic. The Queen's Wrath weapons aren't great. The sniper rifle is great. The rocket launcher is great, but other than that, every other class of weapon is just outclassed completely. So you really just, yeah, they're not that great. I probably wouldn't be using a Queen's Wrath primary since I have Fatebringer, so you don't need them. And again, the story missions, however numerous, you can still speedrun them in about an hour and a half. There's a lot more of them than Dark Below, I will say, but Dark Below missions you can finish in like half an hour. So yeah, the story missions, they're a lot better than Dark Below, don't get me wrong. I enjoyed them a lot more, and there's a lot more content, but if you put them all together and do them all side by side, all after each other, you can finish them in just half an hour. So if you want a longer story experience, try and space the missions out. You can do obviously the main story quest, but then sort of go and do something else, maybe a patrol mission. They do throw a few patrol missions in there that you have to do for the story, so that's cool. That sort of brings it up a little bit in terms of time, but I'm talking about the actual sort of quests. Like, you can finish them in pretty much an hour and a half, so hopefully in the future we'll get a little bit longer story missions, but honestly, I'm impressed so far, I will say. Dark Below was lacking quite a bit of content, but all in all, House of Wolves has really improved on everything that Dark Below got wrong, really. And that's why I like it so much, and that is why I will give it a solid 8 out of 10 as a expansion for Destiny. It serves its purpose as a really solid expansion for the Destiny universe. It adds a lot more gameplay elements, new features, and honestly, it's an all-round expansion, and that's really what it is. Everyone can treat this as a separate game, but it is an expansion for a game that we've already got, and it works really, really well. It's added a lot more playtime for me, at least. The new Nightfall and the new Strikes, they're great. The new modifiers, they're a lot of fun to play with, although Trickle's pretty annoying. But yeah, honestly, I can't fault this DLC too much. I think it's gotten a lot of stuff right. Honestly, the only thing that I feel could take this up to a 9 is if it added a raid, but honestly, I'm not going to be that guy that complains about the lack of a raid, because I still enjoy Crota's End and Vault of Glass, and I'm content with Prison of Elders until the new DLC comes out. I think it's called The Taken King. Hopefully we'll see some of that at E3 this year, because E3 is coming up very shortly. I don't know when exactly, but it shouldn't be too long now. We've had a Fallout 4 announcement as well, so hopefully we'll be seeing a bit more of that. But yeah, that is honestly all I can say on House of Wolves, guys. Overall, I am very, very pleased with it. I've enjoyed it so far. A lot of the new stuff is just really fun to play around with. And I honestly do think it is worth the money that we paid for it. We paid $19.99 for it. And I feel it's worth it. I don't feel like I've been cheated out of it. I'm pretty happy with the content that we've got from it. So if you're a fan of Destiny and you don't have the DLC yet, I do highly recommend you pick it up. You're going to have quite a bit of fun with it. It adds a lot of new gameplay for it. So yeah, definitely pick it up. Anyway, that is my time, guys. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Take care.